And now, for your entertainment pleasure, an audio murder mystery starring a full cast of suspects. The Death of Dr. Davidson. Dr. Davidson has been found dead in his study, the morning after announcing his intentions to disinherit his entire family. We join them in the drawing room later that morning as they are greeted by the police detective assigned to the case.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Inspector Miles McTavish, and I'll be conducting the investigation into the death of Dr. Davidson. Thank you all for your cooperation. I will endeavor to make this unpleasant process as brief and painless as possible. Mr. Davidson, Mrs. Smythe, Mrs. Forrester, may I take this opportunity to express my condolences to you and your family.
Thank you, Inspector.
Thank you.
And thank you for your patience while the photographers documented the scene. I understand they left only moments before I arrived. I have called the coroner's office for the removal of Dr. Davidson's remains, but of course I shall be examining the body first, and the crime scene itself, if one of you would be so good as to show me where the deceased was found.
I'll do it. Rodney, stay down here and make sure your sisters are all right. There's a good chap.
If you insist.
Speaking of, if it's not too indelicate a thing to say at such a moment, I have to insist that none of you leave the premises until I've concluded my investigation. My associate Sergeant Roy will be joining us shortly. There he is now.
Inside, with the others. Come on.
Unhand me, you ape! This is outrageous!
Harrison, what on earth were you doing?
The inspector asked me to secure the grounds as soon as we arrived. Good thing, too, because I caught this gentleman running through the back gate, wearing his coat and galoshes and carrying this valise.
Harrison!
I can explain, if you'd only let me explain.
Please, calm yourself, sir. I will be interviewing all of you shortly. You'll have plenty of opportunity to explain anything you wish. Now, Sergeant, if you would follow me upstairs, please, and be so good as to radio our Confederates at the police car at the front gate to keep an eye on all points of exit from this fine abode.
Already spoken to them, sir. There won't be any more escape attempts.
Escape attempts? He's talking like we're a bunch of criminals.
Somebody did kill him, Sadie. Let's not look too surprised that they're keeping an eye on us.
Mr. Forrester, is it? Thank you. Please do show me where the body was discovered. Sergeant Roy, would you join us, please?
He's in here, Inspector. No one has touched anything.
And it was you who discovered the body? Just as he is here, lying just so?
Yes. Well, no, as a matter of fact. I didn't find him. Hannah, the Davidsons' housekeeper, did. She screamed, and we all came running.
I see. Thank you, Mr. Forrester. Please join your family downstairs. Sergeant Roy and I will be with you shortly.
Did you search Harrison Smythe after you caught him attempting to leave the scene of the crime?
I patted him down for weapons, yes.
You should look into him very carefully, Inspector. We all found out last night he's not who he says he is. And there's some indication he's actually a wanted man.
Thank you, Mr. Forrester. I will be interviewing everyone. Now, if you please.
Certainly. I'll be downstairs consoling my wife and sister-in-law, whom I know are simply devastated by the loss of their dear father.
Of course. Please close the door when you leave. Well then. Be so good as to take some notes down while I ponder the scene, Roy.
Ready when you are.
To begin. The body of Dr. James Davidson was found in his study by the housekeeper at approximately 8 a.m. this morning. He appears to be fully dressed in his dinner attire, meaning he was perhaps killed before having changed for bed last night. There appears to be a pinkish foam in the victim's mouth, indicating some manner of poison, perhaps. The post-mortem will determine this, of course, but there also appears to be a china teacup on the floor by the victim's right hand, indicating that this is how the poison was administered. Hand me a pen, Roy, so I may lift this up by the handle to preserve any fingerprints, just in case. Thank you. Yes. The strong smell of bitter almonds. Very distinctive. Very likely to be cyanide residue in this cup. Please do secure the cup as evidence, Sergeant.
Yes, sir. Cyanide. There's a wonder.
It does not appear to be any other harm or insult to the body. Do you concur, Sergeant?
Not that I can see, sir. No bullet wounds or other injuries. Should I turn him over and check?
No. I see no need for us to undertake such a labor. When the coroner's men arrive to remove the body, we may satisfy ourselves that there are no other injuries to his person.
Such a typical story. One of the family bumped off the old goat. Probably for his money.
A good detective never leaps to conclusions when he can stroll there sedately and take in the view along the way, Sergeant.
If you say so, sir. I've just seen my share of cases like these.
As have I, Sergeant. But, nevertheless, we owe this man our due diligence. Now, moving along. The room shows no sign of struggle. In fact, the scene seems quite unremarkable in every other respect. But one.
The wall safe. It's wide open. And from the looks of it, it's been rifled through. There's the odd few papers here. Nothing out of the ordinary. Just some, looks like insurance papers.
Please secure them as well. We'll have to examine them later.
Right you are. It doesn't look like the door was forced open. Should I dust it for fingerprints? Hang on. Hang on a minute. What's this?
Did you find something, Sergeant?
What in blazes? Here, what do you make of this? It looks like... Oh, I've seen one of these before. My wife has been fiddling around with these silly things lately. It's a false eyelash.
A false eyelash? Just one lash or a whole row?
It's the whole thing. See for yourself. You glue this part onto your eyelid and Bob's your uncle. Makes the girls feel like they're film stars. I think it's daft, but you know women. But, oh, does this one reek to high heaven of perfume?
Please bag the eyelash, Sergeant, and make note of where you found it. We'll have to determine if there exists some sort of inventory of what was kept in the safe.
Cash, I'd imagine. Jewels, maybe?
Stroll, Sergeant. Don't leap.
Of course, sir. But even on a stroll, you're sure to get somewhere eventually. I think it stands to reason there were valuables in this safe.
You're probably right. But let us turn our attention to other aspects of the room. Look at the desk here. Does anything about this desk strike you as odd, Roy?
Should something strike me as odd? Besides this contraption here, with the long tube and the horn thingamabob on the end?
That is a dictating machine. It records one's voice onto wax cylinders so a typist can then transcribe the spoken word. Dictaphone, I believe it's called. Aside from that, however, the desk only contains a fountain pen and writing tablet. And aside from this book on the floor, which it appears he was reading when he died. What's the title? King Lear, devotee of the bard, not unexpected in an educated man. Aside from this book, there's nothing else on any of the shelves. This room seems oddly sparse. There isn't even anything in any of the desk drawers.
Except this one pencil.
How singular. You would think even a retired physician would keep files and paperwork in his study, perhaps even medical books.
There's no skeleton either. I thought all doctors had skeletons in their surgeries.
His surgery. Of course, how careless of me. This must have been his personal study. He has a surgery downstairs attached to the house. I made a note of it when we arrived. I thought it odd at the time that a retired doctor would still maintain his surgery in his own home. We must investigate the surgery. Come. Oh, my goodness. What have I trod on? It looks like... Oh, it's some sort of lady's brooch. Oh, dear. In my haste, I fear I've ruined a rather fetching piece. Please, help me collect the gems, Roy. I want this bagged as well.
Do you want all the little crush bits too, or just the larger stones?
All of it, if you please. Odd. How very odd.
Downstairs in the drawing room, a few moments later.
Where are they going now? Papa's surgery? Whatever for?
Come away from the window, Sadie dear. You look suspicious, flicking the curtains like that.
I just don't know what they could possibly want with Papa's surgery. He hasn't used it in years, has he?
He mentioned to me some time ago that he would come out of retirement if we end up going to war with Germany. To do his bit, you know. Maybe he was starting to open it back up. Hannah, did he say anything to you about the surgery?
Not as I recall. But come to think of it, he was down here last week sorting out some old files or something. I don't know what to tell the truth, but he was down here a good few hours pottering about. But not since, and it were just the once.
He dictated a letter for me to type up to another doctor in Harley Street. It was about a patient, and he had me include some radiographs. He'd just gone down to the surgery to get them.
Who cares about any of this? None of it matters now.
It could matter very much, Rodney. His surgery is where he kept all his chemicals and drugs.
And in the doctor's surgery.
Where do we even begin? Looks like a typical doctor's office to me.
Indeed. Empty. All of his patient files have been cleared out. To be expected of a retired doctor, I suppose.
He was some big-time surgeon, wasn't he? For the heart or something?
Yes. And he was quite famous for a particular suturing technique he invented, as I recall. He was a bit of a local celebrity. Some people even bandied about the notion of a Nobel Prize, at least according to the newspapers. Nevertheless, I know he retired from surgery and restricted himself to consultations with patients.
You amaze me, sir. How do you remember details like that from some newspaper story you read?
Much as I would like to take credit for it, alas, I cannot. My Aunt Alice was a patient of his up until last year when she passed. She was quite smitten with him and regaled me with tales of what an honorable, erudite man he was.
Well, someone didn't think so.
Indeed. Someone with access to this surgery who could have chosen their murder weapon from this cabinet right here. Look at all these vials and bottles, Roy. This is where the murderer could have secured the cyanide, if it turns out to be the poison that was used, which I believe it was.
Leaping, not strolling, sir?
Sometimes faith requires a leap, Roy.
Well, I don't believe that for a moment, sir. Why would a doctor have a deadly poison like cyanide? It makes no sense.
There is a form of cyanide that is used by doctors to treat maladies of the heart. It is not so much used now, but in her day, my aunt insisted she needed it to preserve her life. Used carefully, it can have therapeutic effects, but even in very small doses, it is rapidly and violently fatal. Yes, I'm confident enough to make this leap of logic, Sergeant. I believe this is what caused the death of Dr. Davidson.
So, we're looking for someone who knew about this here poison, and someone who knew how to handle it, and someone who had access to the doctor's study.
And, of course, someone with a reason to want the doctor dead. If you would, please call the photographers back. We're going to need photographs of this surgery, and these vials. In the meantime, it's time to find out more about this family.
Why was Harrison trying to flee? What alibis did the other suspects have? Tune in next time to find out the answers.